So we're gonna talk about the similarities of Aztecs and Greeks.
Yes, we're gonna start with the beginning of time, or Mother Earth. Okay. So the ancient Greeks believed that the beginning of the world was a state of nothingness, which they called chaos. Suddenly from light came Gaia, Mother Earth, and from her came Uranus, the sky, along with the other old gods called primordials like Prometheus, the primordial god of the oceans.
What happened after that?
So that led to Earth as we know it. Why don't you go now?
So there was nothing in the universe, and the four gods came from the heavens. One was Quetzalcoatl, Huitzilopochtli, Tezcatlipoca, and Tziptotec. They were children of Ometecuhtli. These are the most important four Aztecs, but there were many more to explore, and plenty more gods there were. And so they created a planet called Earth, but it was all water, and there was a monster living in it. And every time they created something to put in the earth, the monster would eat everything. So they just decided to kill the monster. One of them sacrificed themselves to kill the monster. They managed to kill it and put land on the earth. After they put land on the earth, they created humans. Well, they were not actually humans because they made stuff out of mud. They would put mud and corn.
So they would basically just mold them?
Yeah.
Okay. So the four main gods, what did they do?
Quetzalcoatl was the god of wind, education, and other stuff. There was also a god of the underworld and death. He ruled the underworld, and it was nine levels to the underworld, and you had to pass each one to get to the land that you're supposed to go after death. Quetzalcoatl once saved the earth when trying to make the fifth sun, to make the humans of the fifth sun go into the underworld with his brother.
So who was the Aztec mythology, the guy that helped the humans?
Which one?
There were multiple?
Yeah, there were multiple.
They
went to the fifth sun?
Sure.
Okay, so there was Quetzalcoatl, who, after 4 suns, they tried to create humans. Some of them turned into birds. Some of them did not believe in the gods and they didn't want to do anything. They turned into monkeys. And one of them, the first ones that they created were giants, but they were too dumb to know anything, so they just died and turned into mountains. And there were fish as well, because they fell into the water once they were created. And then after Quetzalcoatl, every single other god, the other 3 gods, 4, they gave up. But except for Quetzalcoatl, he decided to go to the underworld. And when he entered, in the first level, he met his brother, Xoloth. And Xoloth helped them go through the underworld while they were trying to escape death. The first level, they had to cross a river or a place where dogs went. And they passed it, and when there was another level when they had to climb an obsidian mountain, but every time they stepped, they would get cut. So Xoloth and Quetzalcoatl found some rocks and used their sandals and climbed once they passed that level, they went to a mountain, 2 mountains which they collide, and you don't hurry up and run, and they will crush you. They managed to pass that, and they also went to another level they went to. A bloody river with jaguars that tried to eat their heart, but Quetzalcoatl had a jewel, so he grabbed it and threw it, and they said, "There's my heart, you go get it." And the jaguars just ran to the jewel, and Quetzalcoatl and Xoloth ran to the next place. There was also a realm where there's always raining arrows, and you had to dodge them or block them. once they reached to the Lord of the Underworld to reach the bones of the humans that lived before them, they told they was there was a trick something like that. They gave them a conch shell and they make it sound or music. They would take the bones and go away. But the thing is that the conch shell didn't have any hole to blow in, so Quetzalcoatl made a hole, called the worms out, and made the worms dig a hole in the conch shell, and then they couldn't make sound still. So he called some bees. The bees got inside the shell and made sound, and the Lord of the Underworld was tricked. But to Quetzalcoatl to escape with the bones, he asked Xolo to distract the god, and that's what he did. But after running, almost getting out, he fell into a hole that had spikes in it. But he somehow survived, but the bones were broken, and that's how people think people are different sizes.
So for the Greek mythology, there's just one person that tried to help the humans. It was Prometheus. Prometheus tried to give them fire and water and all this stuff, but the gods didn't like that because they thought that the humans were just dumb and they despised them. And so Prometheus tried to help them and give them water and all this stuff. And so to do that, when he gave them fire, the gods got mad and tortured him very gruesome ways. So there's that. What's something that you find interesting?
The thing that I find interesting is when they were creating the fifth sun, when they created it, when one of the gods threw himself into a fire after another god, rich god, he hesitated. He jumped into the fire. A bird caught him and put him in the sky, and he turned into a sun. And then the other god also threw himself into the fire, but there was a jaguar instead. He couldn't pick him up and put him in the sky, so he turned into the moon. But now the gods, but right now there's actually two suns. But until one of the gods grabbed a rabbit and threw it at the moon, and it turned into the moon. But after that, they realized they didn't move at all. So they sent a bird flying to the sun. And after the sun told them that they had to sacrifice themselves in order to move, they decided to sacrifice themselves. And after they sacrificed themselves, there was one turn for a god to sacrifice him, but he hesitated. He ran away. He cried, and that god was Xoloth. He didn't want it to get killed, so he ran away, took many forms, and one of them being the axolotl. He jumped into a pond and waited there, hiding from the god of wind, Quetzalcoatl. He ran from him, but eventually he found them and killed them. But since they're gods, they couldn't stay there, and they just revived. And since Xoloth ran away, they made him carry the sun through the underworld. And after that, it's how they made the people, the humans. After that.
So how many gods are in the Aztec?
More than 400. Around 500.
That's a lot. Google, or for Greeks, Google says 12, but there's a lot more. I don't know how many. I have a book on this stuff, but there's a lot more than 12. That's all I know. The Greeks were very active. Yeah, there we go. Active.
Well, on the other hand, Aztecs were very clean. The gods, really, they had kids with being virgins. They somehow most of them had a kid while being virgins, and some of them did not have a kid and were still virgins. But the humans, they made it and killed for a living and daily.
So they basically just used the humans for stuff.
You were an Aztec born. You were able to shapeshift if you did a ritual, but you were supposed to turn into an animal that you you were born and the day you were born. So if you were born a specific day, you were gonna turn into a specific animal. And the god of war, that most powerful god, he decided to turn himself into a hummingbird.
A hummingbird.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so effective. Just peck their eyes out. Okay. Forget what I was gonna say. Let's.
Yeah, his name was Huitzilopochtli.
Oh yeah, what's with the names? They're very
Long.
yeah and confusing.
Yeah, I don't know about that. They don't really specify. Some of them are very short, like Tlaloc. He's a god of rain. Or like Xoloth. He's also
Yeah,
short
but
name.
Churla, I can't pronounce it. His name is very confusing because it's XOTL.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not very
something like
complicated.
that.
You're a Spanish speaker or a Nahuatl speaker. It's
Yeah,
not that hard to say.
I don't speak Spanish, so. Yeah. Did you know Zeus had slept with multiple men?
Yes, I heard that before.
Yeah, he once traded a horse or 2 immortal horses and a spouse just to sleep with a man.
Dang.
Guessing he was very desperate.
Yeah. Well, you know how the Americas used to be very clean and didn't have any dirty stuff or like toxic waste or something like that back in the past. But the Europeans have a lot of viruses. Well, this is one thing about the Aztecs and the Spaniards that did. The Spaniards were very dirty. They were just very dirty.
Oh
And
yeah,
the
they brought
Aztecs-
over lots of diseases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Aztecs, on the other hand, they separated water into 2 things, the drinking one and the bathing one.
Oh yeah, that's kind of like the Romans. They had this big public pool where everyone would take a bath.
Mm.
They would just all strip down naked and jump in the pool. Seems very unsanitary, but it was effective.
Yeah.
What is your favorite Aztec god?
Xoloth.
Why?
I have no idea. I just like him. What is yours?
I don't really have a favorite Aztec god. I don't know much about it.
What is your favorite Greek god?
Hermes.
Why?
He's fast. I don't know.
So, the Aztecs, they're not actually called Aztecs. They're called Mexica. They have multiple tribes like the Quetzal or.
Did any Did any Aztecs like actually survive the Spaniards?
Yes, they did, and they look different from the Mexicans because they have long hair. Not really, but they got it. Their hair looks different and stuff. From other stuff, they look the same. They just the ones that did survive. Well, there were a lot, but not that many. They just had kids with the Spaniards, and they just created the Mexicans. Most of them might come from the actual Spaniards, but just different color.
Yeah, Didn't the Aztecs and the Spaniards get down and dirty?
Not really.
No. Thought that's how most of them were saved.
Nah. Most of them were saved because they were children and women. Even though the Spaniards also killed their children and women.
So the Spaniards were vicious, but not.
Yeah.
But fair at least.
Yeah, at least more. They killed most of women and kids. Do you know that the Aztecs were very sexist? They just see women as women as machines that created warriors.
Huh. So they were.
They did have slaves though, but not like not because of color, but because they were captured from other
Yeah,
from the
I've heard
Mayan
of that.
and
Yeah.
other tribes. They were captured because they were in war, and the ones that you capture, you're able to keep them as slaves to pay off your debt, or just because they want you as slaves, and not because your color. They're not racist.
Didn't the Aztecs and the Spaniards try to make peace with?
Yeah, they did try to make peace, but the leader of the Spaniards just wanted their gold and their land. But I don't know whether they just attacked the Aztecs. Even though the Aztecs offered food, gold, and stuff to them because of their weapons. Their amazing weapons.
What kind of weapons did the Aztecs have?
Well, they also have weird names.
Of course.
They used bows as well. They used that kind of sword that has obsidian blades around it.
Oh, yeah, it has like little
Yeah.
chunks of obsidian.
It was called Macuahuitl. It has like a big basin with blades around it. They have a design in the middle. Something like that. And do you know that this weapon can cut off a horse's head in just one strike?
Wow.
It can just decapitate a lot of animals. And there was this type of warriors that the Spaniards were more scared of. They were jaguar clothing. They were the most fearsome of the tribes. Not the tribes, the warriors.
What's the most confusing thing about the Aztec mythology?
The most confusing thing is that they all have mixed names. Like if you see a god, you might see another god with another name. With this, has a little bit of them. Like Xochiquetzal, she has a mixed names from two gods, from Quetzalcoatl and another one.
Most confusing thing in the Greek mythology is seeing how it all started, or didn't start, but like the main three gods, Zeus, Hades, and Poseidon.
Yeah.
They somehow made children together, seeing how they were males.
Yeah.
I don't get that.
But Shola was born with a dog head and his feet were backwards. Every single other god just looked normal out of their shape-shifting form.
That seems like it'd be painful to walk.
I know.
Fall over every other step.
He probably didn't. He probably had just dog legs or something. Like in the drawing they made.
Okay. Well, I think that's all. Is there anything else you want to add?
No.
Okay.